As a graphic design user, I wanted to experiment with some of the AI tools that we have access to right now, and now I wanted to share some of the insights or useful ways in which I've ended up using these AI tools. So I want to go through this quick presentation. Some of the tools that I have been using are things such as ChatGPT that some of you may have messed with. There's Gemini, Claude, and there's some other new ones coming out. It's your typical chat bot that you can talk to, you can ask it questions, you can go back and forth. So that's been one of the main tools, as well as Midjourney, which is an AI image generation program where you can add prompts and it'll give you an image. And this is the presentation guide, and then I'll be switching windows between the main ones being obviously your browser, just to show you some examples of these tools. I may do some quick demos on this one, and then Midjourney as well, just to show you some examples of how it works or what you can do with it. Oh, also Obsidian. This is a note-taking app that I use where it just helps me organize my notes and it shows workflow better this way. I like this app because it keeps my notes all organized, but I also have a plugin that lets me have basically ChatGPT access directly through here, and I can reference my notes. It just keeps everything organized and it helps the workflow. So to get started, I have 5 categories that I found in which AI has helped me, at least with this project, which as for the final version of this project, I didn't really finish it, but I have it right here, what is a work in progress, or what I did so far for my project. So to give a brief, quick overview of what my project was, or what it ended up turning into, originally it started as a brainstorm session of wanting to do something with anxiety or depression for the main topics, and it went through several evolutions, and eventually I landed on this hypothetical future where we colonize Mars and AI is super advanced and it's super intelligent, and what sort of world this will be. And trying to create a scenario and then some lore storyline into it, sort of thing. And then I meant to do some more in-depth information on this part for how it works, blah blah blah, some more in-depth information of it. Just trying to show you here what I have, sort of like the concepts on Midjourney images right here. Quick logo, goodbye, and this is the last slide. So this is what I ended up with, and the main thing that AI helped me with in terms of this project was with, again, for the first one, was for inspiration. So like I had mentioned at first, it went through many evolutions. One of my goals with this project was to try to not be so rigid. I feel like I overthink a lot, so I tend to be very linear. But this one I was trying to go with a more fluid, staying with the flow kind of approach, which AI helped me just get notes on and everything. But let's see, for inspiration. So some of you might have already used AI for this. You ask it, give me ideas for a YouTube video on how to use AI as a graphic designer. And you will get some ideas, and these are good starting points. One way that I found I can get better inspiration by using this, I'll try to add sort of like quickly go through how I use this and then quick tips along the way. Obviously this is going to give you something very general. One tip that I found that really helped me, all of these 3 you can have access to. This so far from all the reading that I did, are obviously each of these claim to be the most intelligent AI model, but these are the top 3, at least as of right now, for what I have gathered. So one quick tip, I just have all tabs open and put the exact same prompt into each of these. How this helps me, not only is it already giving me a lot of general ideas that may or may not be what I'm looking for, but by doing in all 3 of so you get even more ideas. But definitely I recommend experimenting with each of these and try to find how each of them work differently. If you're looking for just one, you don't want to spend all this time, ChatGPT, the 3.5 version is free. I think it's the overall better one. But once you mess around with a couple other ones, you start to notice different use cases for each of this. So very briefly, how I have been able to identify or use this differently. Gemini has been the best one for sort of writing tips and help. It is really good at writing, but it's not the smartest. You can lose track of your conversation very easily. ChatGPT, I think, is overall the best one. But this one, Claude, this one has the best, I don't know, the more human relatable. This one sometimes it sounds too much like a AI bot. This one sometimes gives you a little bit more human. For if you need the text to feel human, but still smart, kind of this one. If you want more like writing, like final writing tone and stuff, this one's very good for that sort of creative writing. And this is probably the best one for like data, more like accurate information in many ways. But just mess with them and you can figure out for yourself how you find each of these works best for your use cases. So that's for inspiration. Obviously, some of the best ways, one thing that I recommend to do with trying to use this that work for me is to just look up prompt engineering and how to best get results from ChatGPT. So how to get the best results from ChatGPT, prompt engineering. I mean, we can even ask it right here. But basically, prompt engineering, it's what shows you, it's the way in which you write the prompt. For example, some of the tips that come up very often is this thing about like breaking down complex requests, or like you don't want to just write a whole wall of text to your chatbot. You want to break it down into smaller sections, and you can go through this to find a bunch of like the top 10 most important or beneficial ways for like what prompt engineering is or how it can help you. So one thing to study, to consider. I don't want to go into depth of everything because I just want to give you the overview of how to quickly start implementing these tools, because I think AI is the future and I think this is something that is very beneficial, or has been for me. I'm just speaking from personal experience. Anyways, that's for inspiration. For comparing, that's the second one, for comparing data. This is once you start to get into actually using AI. Again, if I'm going quickly, it's just to cover everything. So one way that I like to think about this is what these chatbots are very good at is like comparing different things. So for example, if you want to compare an apple with an orange, you have your own things that you can quickly pick up, like, oh, they are fruits, or the differences are the color. But with some things, maybe not so obvious, but because this is, it's artificial intelligence, it can really give you a lot more info. So for example, I don't know, I have an idea, again, for the YouTube video, I have an idea for a YouTube video on cars, but I also want to cover engineering 101. I don't know, just something random. Give me similarities and differences between cars and apples. I don't know, I just changed it because I felt like this wasn't the best example, so just, I don't know, something like that. Hopefully this goes into the whole brainstorming part, but like these are things that maybe you don't think about comparing when brainstorming, or maybe you will think about it, but usually you wouldn't actually go through them because they seem like two completely separate things, different topics, something that like maybe there's no overlap. You will think maybe there's nothing of interest there, but here you can see that very quickly it's giving me a bunch of information. And the way I used to, this is the part of the reason why I like to use Obsidian or any note-taking app, just to keep, again, everything organized and take notes. It's very easily, you can do copy and then use paste, and now I have this, and then I can quickly jump between different notes. And here's where the comparison part, again, you don't have to use this, but this just really helps for this. So Obsidian, I can split the screen, so now I can do what I had here for this one, and then if I wanted to compare Now do one where you do clothing against paperbacks. What's the word? There you go. Again, something you probably wouldn't want to be too interested in looking up specifically. Not using these examples, but yeah, just to show you what you can do. So this really opens the possibilities, at least in my opinion, that you can go into any direction. That's one thing where I used it for my project, was because when I was doing the anxiety and depression topics, at first I wasn't too sure, but since I wanted to really not be married to any one idea, I wanted this project, if it evolved, let it evolve and let it take me where it goes. In part so that I could really integrate these tools and use it even more for the brainstorming part. I think I really extended the brainstorming part a lot, but that was part of the whole reason for doing this, to really get to know these tools. So then here is the second one. So here's what was this? Car versus, what did I compare with? I already forgot. What did I compare with? Candles here. Oh, apples, the circles. So cars versus apples, and this one was clothing versus paper, I think. Then, I don't know, you just have your information here, you can go through it, you can highlight, take notes, whatever. Delete stuff that you don't want, maybe I don't know, like the recycling or whatever. Anyway, make it your own, find what helps you, and then once I have this is the part where I can do the comparison part with, again, with Obsidian. It helps to make this all faster. You could do it just with this by copy and pasting each of the nodes in here, whichever way works best for you. This method that I use is free and works for me. So now that I have comparison of something that I wouldn't usually do here and another one completely different here, that's great. And now I can compare this against this one. If I just go give a document where you highlight the overlaps between, and then I can reference cars versus apples and clothing versus paper bag. So now I can very quickly narrow down the information to whatever I want. So in this instance, how I will realistically use this will be, again, going back to the example where I originally started in my project. It actually originally started as doing research to find out how to go viral, but I quickly found out that nowadays everybody wants to go viral. So I mean, people are risking their lives just to get a few clicks. So I have there's no way for me to, I can't match that, so I ended up switching. And then I went with the anxiety and depression, and then from there I wasn't too sure if I wanted to end with that. So then I went into different, I don't know, it was really interesting to story building and writing. I always wanted to write a story or like a novel of sorts, even though I don't really have the patience for it. But this is a great way to explore that. So for example, if I would have been partially interested in cars, apples, clothing, and paper bag, now I can have all those four, and very quickly, I mean, just here talking about it, I am already getting really a much more narrow information of this. So now this can be my starting point for the project. You have more narrowed, summarized core information where you may even get new ideas, and you can get very easily lost in a hole. So yeah, very useful for brainstorming. Let's see, saving time. Yeah, this covers into the whole saving time part. Because yeah, I went through so many iterations that I got lost and ended up spending a lot more time than maybe I should have. So I'm gonna go to the next one because this covers saving time, summarizing. You probably already have done this where you have a really long article online, you copy and paste If you haven't done it, you can paste the whole article here and just ask, hey, summarize this, and it'll give you a summarized, easier to understand version. Again, with all this, if I have everything right here, and another way that I can speed up this even more, I'm very about big picture, give me bullet points to get the big idea. If I read long paragraphs, I get lost and just doesn't work for me. So then I could do give me write me a summarized version in bullet points of so long as name overlap between cars versus apples and clothing versus paper bag. So again, I'm referencing this note. Again, this workflow just speeds things up even more. So now I can have an even better, more accessible breakdown. It still seems quite wordy, but again, I can make it very brief, and I can get the core material of it very easily. So let's see. Oh, so that's one collaboration. Okay, so for collaboration part, for this, I've been thinking of the chatbot as a collaborator, because one thing that you can do obviously is, if I have this, I can then ask it, write me a document where you give me your thoughts and feedback on this one again. And one thing that I think maybe some people may not think as much, or at least I didn't think of it at the beginning until I started messing around more with it, is to, again, think of how you arrange the prompt, how you word it, try adding more or less detail in different areas. Some of these smaller nuances you can only start to notice, or these patterns you can only start to notice until you start messing around with it a little bit more on your own and find your more unique, specific use cases that apply to you. But again, so for example, if that's one prompt, so write me a document where it just gives me thoughts and feedback very easily. I have this right now. I can be like, okay, so what do you think of it so far? And you may agree with some, may not with other stuff, but it gives you some points of reference very easily. Here I can highlight or whatever if I wanted to. If I had copied this here over and I was like, oh, this I really like, I'm gonna make this red or whatever. Again, this is also why I like this program, because it's very easy, and it's free. But yeah, I can just take notes very easily, delete stuff that I don't care about, and if I have a bunch of notes, I can find what I need out of the bunch from here. I don't even have to do note by note. I can do by folder if these are do the one that has for design. This is the project. So here you just give me the directory for it, and you can just use the notes in that directory. So there's another ways to use these tools, but with even more control, which to me helps brainstorming to give even better, wilder, whatever you want, or type of ideas, by taking advantage of the strengths of things like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. So these were the main 5. I guess now I'll just go quickly through my project and maybe show some of the stuff that I worked on. I didn't touch on Midjourney as much, but some of the ways that I have found AI shaped my project for this one. For Midjourney, you definitely helped me explore new directions, because you can do I know that Midjourney sort of steals from a bunch of other people's works, and there's the unethical aspect of that, but you can give your results that you wouldn't find the exact same thing online, and it can be a lot more unique to your use case. Like this one, I wouldn't really use. It was a kind of like one that didn't work as well, but maybe this is exactly what I wanted, and you wouldn't find this online otherwise. So to me, it really made what used to be, if not impossible, much more challenging directions to take your project into, a lot easier to get to using things like Midjourney. Like I wouldn't have been able to explore this whole idea, which I was really into the whole colonizing Mars in the future. I always been really into tech, so this is kind of like where my interests were. But I wouldn't have been able to get to this if I wouldn't been able to do the whole world building out of Midjourney. Like I really had a lot of control over these images and styling. And again, if you look up how to do Midjourney prompting, it'll give you a whole new way of list to consider, things to consider, and workflows or whatever. So another way that AI really helped me was I had the overall idea of, oh yeah, a future where maybe the government gets replaced by AI and we're colonizing Mars. I was thinking very broad picture. The part that I didn't finish were the stuff that you will usually will be maybe using text filter like lorem ipsum. So in this case, I use placeholders, and then I was able to explore the behind the scenes, maybe not behind the scenes, but the lore behind this to give her more add more interest to it, and its actual text that seems more realistic. You do have to edit the outputs. Like if I just copy and paste, trying to find like how this works and the explanations of whatever. Maybe not everything is accurate, but yeah, you do need to go and read what you're working with and delete what doesn't work and leave what does. So you cannot trust it 100%, but it's very accurate and it's very easy to quickly go through this and catch little things like, oh, that's completely off. Let me just take it off. Or it's not even that off. Sometimes it's just, this just doesn't apply at this moment. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that helped me. Maybe I'll just go through some of my notes. Different types of notes that I took for this to show more examples of real world use. So let's see. So again, to show the type of notes that I realistically took and actually use, I have different folders inside my thesis project main folders. So let's see, branding ideas, what I have here. I think here's where I started to do the whole unified branding. One thing that it helped me, or that I started using this for, was to create this idea of export being like the main company and this being sort of the product, but creating branding for each. So this helped me evolve. Like for example, I had like a 5 module, 4 module, and 3 module. The module thing was sort of how the breakdown for explaining the different parts of how this super intelligent system that we were going to use in Mars worked, at least according to the lore and data of this fictional thing that I was doing. I think at first, before I had made the logo with like the main 4 parts to make it just easier to remember, I guess. I think I started with more than 5. I think I had 6. Even though the logo had like the 4 corners. And then I think I explored with some other logos where I tried with like 3 points instead of 4, 5. Maybe changing these ones as well. So I was going back and forth. So again, ChatGPT made it very easy to edit with content that still made sense. So I made like a 5 version, 4 and a 3, and again I just specify, make sure you summarize, make sure you include all of these but dividing into this many. So again, very easy to switch between the different versions. I'm replacing lorem ipsum for actual content. It can even help you inspire more because you're seeing something closer to the final result rather than something as empty or as placeholder as lorem ipsum is. Let's see, alternate naming options again. Trying to find more inspiration within smaller aspects that maybe one of these, like maybe, I don't know, harmonics, somehow the name truly sparked an idea and now I can go off that. And again, you don't need ChatGPT to do these kind of things. You can do brainstorming either on paper or on your own computer, but ChatGPT really speeds up a lot. Campaign concepts. I think the colors, this was just for inspiration. Let's see. I think I also have a bunch of notes of things that interest me that I added in there that I thought maybe I could incorporate somehow. For example, this Tech by 2050. I think I don't remember the exact prompt, but I just asked ChatGPT to give me a list of ideas of technology that may show up in that we may realistically have by 2015. I got all of this. I think this is where the base of the universe that I was creating started taking shape, because this was all stuff that I was really into. So this all just happened to land around this kind of scenario, this time and place in my story. The hero's journey. This helped me just as a work as an outline to adjust. One thing that this is really good at too is for like finding patterns. For example, um, again, going using the whole idea of using seemingly unrelated themes, words, or topics to create something that works. One way that I use things like ChatGPT is if I have A, B, and C, finish the sequence. So I wouldn't directly type it like this, but this is just to show what I mean. So if I'm just brainstorming and then I end up highlighting things that I like, again, seemingly unrelated, I have phrase number, again, phrase A, phrase B, phrase C, but they all seem unrelated, but then I ask it to finish or find me more numbers or phrases in this case that fit the sequence. It can very easily do that maybe you will have a hard time finding it, maybe you wouldn't even get to that answer, or it will just take a lot of extra work where this can speed it up and can speed it out in just a few seconds. But still keeps it within context, and it's still useful information because it's using those three that you gave it as reference. So giving it that reference point really helps get you to the next section faster if you can give it something to get started. So you really have to, that's part of the collaboration part where you have to really work along with it and guide it. Another quick tip that right now just came to mind is to ask it questions. This goes back to the whole collaboration part that I was thinking about, because yeah, I mean, you can ask it to give me your thoughts on this, and that'll be great. But sometimes one way that I like to think about it is maybe I have a script. I think I was working here for like a script for this video, which I ended up kind of not using because this was originally supposed to be a YouTube video, but didn't work out. But again, one of the many things that I explored. So this is one of the potential scripts. I think it's one, let's do maybe 6. I think that won't have very cheap. So I can throw in this right here, or I can do it directly from here to be more efficient, I guess. So I could give it this, ask it to based on my script, ask me questions in which I can further improve it. Sometimes I like to ask the questions so that the AI can know maybe there's information that it doesn't know yet, but if you don't ask it to ask you about it, it may not even bring it up. It'll just ignore it and go straight to whatever you asked it. So I like to tell it, oh, here's whatever I'm working on, give me your thoughts, but also ask me any questions that you may have that may help both of us work better together. Think of it, yeah, like a collaborator that you're working along with. So here's, yeah, take a look at your script or rearrange version. Again, you have to check, make sure it didn't do anything weird with your stuff or you lost information or whatever. But and then hopefully here at the end it'll have, maybe I didn't ask it in this example the best way because I was trying to talk while I was doing it, but usually when I ask it to ask me questions, it'll ask me like, oh, but like here you, I think here is some question for improvement. Could you add a specific example of a project where AI directly influenced your work? Because I didn't add that information in my original script and found that it was missing. So again, this sounds more like feedback, like could also have been put out like, oh, add examples of this, how it influenced your work. But sometimes I'll ask you questions that once you give it that, it can give you even more feedback because it has that additional input. So yeah, just the whole going back and forth, being detailed. And again, if you look up prompt engineering, some of the, let's say, give me the top 10 prompt engineering tips summarize for working with AI chatbots. It'll give you the list of like the most important ones. I just wanted to include use cases where I have used and how I have been using. So specifically skiing, just be detailed in your descriptions, avoid being vague, um, show examples so it has points of reference. Example seems to be like a really big thing. Clear constraints, like things you needed to have or things you don't want it to have. The whole persona thing, that's another big one that I do a lot, that I may even have different notes as like if I wanted to give me feedback on something, I can do from the perspective of, I don't know, a professional YouTube creator. Give me your thoughts on my script. And then I do another note, another request of like, from the perspective of a professional author, give me your thoughts on my YouTube script. And I'll have two different thoughts again. It's not perfect like all the information puts out, but it's really good information. It can really shape your project if you, once you get in, figure out how to ask it what you, and get what you want, it can make a big difference. Again, breaking down complex tasks. This helps to get feedback along the way, because if you ask it like, oh, you give it the script and then you ask it like, okay, so give me your thoughts on this, and then with the thoughts put it into this, and then into like a bulleted list, and then but make sure you give titles to the bullet list and make sure this and that, and a lot of like more complicated chains. If there's an error along the way, I really think of this as coding. If any of you have experience with coding, that's sort of like the whole debugging part, breaking it down into smaller chunks of the code where like you run it and then you can see until you find like the error. Breaking it down just helps you get that feedback as you're working with it. Or sometimes I'll even ask the chatbot like, oh, here is what I'm working on, give me your help on this, and then once you give me the result, give me an explanation as to what you did and why you did it. So instead of just being like, oh, well, this is what the chatbot said it was, so that's what it is, I'm gonna copy it and paste it and use it. I can actually see the whole chain of like what it worked with and the steps, and if I see something along the way where it went wrong, I can just run it again. Or with some of these you can edit. I think it has to be, yeah, mostly with this one. Let me. Okay, first thing let me, but you can just run it again with the new fixed prompt. Oh, here it is. So yeah, if I had given me an error somewhere along the way, I can go back and edit and update it, save, and it'll run it again, or I can again just tell it here, oh, you made a mistake in this part of the process, so change stuff or that, or just give the whole thing again. So yeah, I think these have been the main ways in which I have been using this. Again, I have I have 59 notes that I did in total. These are just from the main folder. I don't know if these are included on this one. Okay, no. So yeah, I have 59. Okay, so yeah, I have over 100 notes. Probably close to 200 notes that I took of different things and evolutions. Yeah, again, final project out. This one didn't get finished, only because I ended up focusing more on how to use AI, and that's what I have been really into. Yeah. But yeah, thank you everybody for your attention. Hopefully there was something along the way here that caught your attention or you found beneficial. Thank you everyone and have a great day.